All right, so now that we have kind of gone over your diet and some of the goals that you have surrounding your nutrition, let's come up with a SMART goal. So a SMART goal is something that is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's time bound. So it's really important when we're making goals surrounding our nutrition to be as specific as possible, and it also helps to make it something that is more achievable and something that you can kind of gauge in a shorter amount of time. So, setting big goals are really, really great, but even when we're setting larger goals, we want to be setting smaller goals so that we can see our progress and sort of track as we go.
Makes sense.
It's really helpful for motivation, tracking where we are, and giving ourselves some positive encouragement when we do make those small steps towards a big change. So we're going to come up with a SMART goal. We can either write it down. I have a notebook and a pen, or if it's easier, some people like to put it in their phone so that they have it on them all the time. Whichever you prefer.
I think I do better writing.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So you'll have
I remember it
that.
better.
So let's brainstorm together. So sort of the three things that we deduced from your nutrition goals. One was that you want to consume less sugar or be more mindful about the sugar that you do consume. One was surrounding your sort of snacking habits, and I guess the third one was related to that, sort of this being at the mercy of your schedule and your planning, yes, and sort of the snacks that other people are giving you, and kind of being at the mercy of other people and your schedule overall. So out of those, we can come up with goals for all of them, but we're just going to do one for now. So which of those do you think you want to focus on for this?
Probably
Sugar consumption. Okay, so what exactly, let's be really clear, what exactly is your goal surrounding sugar intake? Is it to consume less? Is it to consume no sugar at all? Is it to only consume natural sugar? Let's be specific.
I would say for now, probably just cutting back on the amount of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like if there were things that I could swap out,
Mm-hmm.
like a natural, a fruit-based
Mm-hmm.
dessert or whatever it may be, something less processed.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe you can give me some guidance on
Yeah.
what the best place to start would be.
So I would say if you want to cut back on your overall sugar consumption, an important thing to know is how much you are consuming. So if you can kind of do a mental tally in your head of, how many times a day are you eating sugar? Or you could do it on a weekly basis. How many times a week are you eating sugar? I know you mentioned fruit sugar, so if you want to include that into your sugar tally, you can, or we can just do more specifically just desserts. So sort of figuring out specifically which you want to focus on, and then we can see where, maybe it's I eat dessert 5 times a week, but I want to make a goal of I'm only going to eat dessert 3 times a week. And that's not very often. That might be an unrealistic comparison, because I know that I eat dessert most days, and so being realistic with ourselves is also really important for these goals, knowing where we actually are so that we can set a realistic expectation for ourselves, because it's not really realistic to say I eat dessert 4 times a day, I'm gonna go cold turkey and not eat anything.
Yeah, doesn't sound fun.
Right. So based off of that, how many times, we'll say a day, you find yourself eating sugar that you would want to reduce?
I would say 2.
2 times.
Is a safe number.
Okay, so we'll say 2 times a day, so that's 14 times a week. So do you want to do it on a daily basis, or would weekly be, you think, a little bit better, bigger picture?
I like the weekly.
Weekly, yeah. I think it's a little bit clearer overall, and it's easier to look back on probably than like day by day. So we'll say if you're eating sugar that you want to reduce 14 times a week, what goal would you want to set in terms of reducing it? How many less times would you want to consume sugar in a week?
Maybe 4 times less.
4 times less. Yeah.
Aiming for 10
Mm-hmm.
total.
So I know you mentioned swapping maybe like healthier options for those desserts. Is that something that you would want to set in your goal, or do you just want to set the goal of taking out those 4 times completely?
I feel like I like the idea of finding alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
What if we did that for like 2 of those?
Yeah.
Like went from 14 to 12, but at least 2 of those being like dates and honey or whatever.
So something a little bit more, less processed, something natural, some sort of fruit or naturally sweetened item.
Yeah, something to satisfy the craving and like the idea in my brain. I feel like would be helpful.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll say we are reducing sugar consumption from 14 times a week to 12, and then 2 of those are going to be natural. So really, we could say reducing it to 10 times of like dessert. Okay.
Should I be writing this down?
Yes. So once we kind of have a more clear, distinct. So okay. Yes. So you can say, my goal is, and if you want, you can even write the acronym out so that you can kind of write next to the S, what the goal is, and then next to measurable, you can put the numbers. Next to attainable, you can put like an affirmation. Relevant, you can put why you want to set this goal for yourself, and then time bound. So that's the last thing we need to talk about is how long of a time frame would you like to put this goal in. So for example, do you want to just do this for a couple months, a couple weeks, or is it something where you slowly want to work towards diminishing it even further?
I would say even further. I feel like hopefully the goal or the the result will be that I want to consume things less dessert wise,
right,
after a certain period of time, because I know like sugar is an addiction and there's definitely a mental part of it. But just knowing that eating it less will make me want to eat it less.
So long-term goal would be to reduce that number even more. Okay, so maybe a better way of putting it is, how many weeks do you want to do this set of consumption before you move into an even further reduction?
Maybe 8 weeks.
8 weeks? Okay, great. So you can write that down in whatever way makes sense to you. So for the next 8 weeks, I'm gonna cut back my sugar consumption to 10 times a week, with the addition of 2 times a week I can have a natural, whichever is your preference. You can say dates, honey, maple syrup, whichever you were thinking. And this is something that can be really helpful to have written down, so that since you have the time-bound section, and since you have the relevancy and why this is something that you're wanting to do, it is really helpful for staying on track and, keeping things moving where you want them to go.
Sure.
So once you have that written down, I want to talk about, or maybe set just a couple of really specific action plans.
Mm-hmm.
So having the goal is really the first step. And because you've been so specific, I think that, there's not too much planning that you'll have to do since you kind of have those numbers in your head. But we can talk about, what are times where you might, be in a social situation and dessert, it happens, or it's a special occasion, it's your birthday and you want to have some birthday cake, things like that. So sort of planning around events like that and, creating an environment where you can stay on track with your goals.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can just set 2 or 3 action plans as to how you're going to follow through with your goal. So I guess in order to set those goals, something that would be helpful to know is, what do you find yourself grabbing during the day? Is dessert normally something that you plan out? Is it something that you buy at the grocery store, or is it something you go get on the daily? So kind of what are your habits surrounding that?
There's definitely some things that are kept in the house. I pretty much always have chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like I try to plan desserts at home, but only to save money, because the temptation is always to go for a sweet treat at the end of the night, to go get a milkshake. Mm-hmm. Or whatever it might be. So yeah, planning, yes, but not to eat healthier, but more so to save money.
Mm-hmm. So when you keep those sort of like dessert items in the house, do you find that it's harder to resist eating them, or is that something that you can kind of
I feel like it's balanced about the same.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean feel good about?
So I guess sometimes if you have certain items in the house, it can be hard to avoid over consuming them or reaching for them in a time where you're setting a goal to not eat them as often. Mm-hmm. Maybe I have that dessert in my cabinet and I really want to go eat it. So is that something that kind of comes up for you? Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe one of the goals, or rather one of the action steps that we can create is being more intentional about what you're buying at the store, or being more intentional about even like the quantity of what you're buying, so that it's spaced out in a way that you stick to your goal of only eating it 10 times a week. Mm-hmm. You see, so instead of buying, maybe there's like an entire birthday cake or your favorite chocolate bar in bulk or whatever it might be, you only buy, the set amount that you're going to be trying to consume that week.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so maybe one of the action steps can be planning your desserts with your grocery list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can go ahead and write that down with your SMART goal. And then you mentioned that, there's sort of this propensity to go out and get a dessert at the end of the day. And not only are you wanting to reduce your sugar consumption for your health, and you mentioned that you had like some stomach issues and things of that nature. And of course, sugar consumption as a whole, there's not really any nutrient value to added sugars to food, and overall, most Americans overconsume a lot of sugar. It's got a lot of what we kind of call empty calories, so sort of a nutrient deficient calorie that's not adding much value to the diet overall. And so for those reasons you're wanting to reduce it, but also, like you said, because of your budget, it makes it sort of difficult when you have that temptation. So what do you think is a goal that you could set surrounding going out and getting desserts? while still sort of maintaining that balance of interacting socially and going out with the people that you care about and having those, experiences?
I don't know, other than just saying no sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
like being mindful of the number. So I don't know, maybe something related to like doing better earlier in the week so that if on the weekend
Mm-hmm.
there, like if I know there's an opportunity coming, I don't know how that might work for spontaneity, but
Right.
just like I said, being mindful of the number throughout the week, because most often the weekend would be a time where something
Mm-hmm.
like that would come up, and
Right.
like if I've only had 7 desserts since Monday and now it's Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
not feeling as bad, but also on the other side of that, knowing if I've had dessert already 10 times by the time Friday or Saturday comes, then no is no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've met my limit.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna offer you three things. I think one thing is that you're absolutely right. Sort of planning on, sort of like front load planning. So, preparing yourself for, like you said, the weekend is a time where more social things are happening. You might be going out more often, and so sort of planning around that and creating an environment where on the weekends if people ask you to go do something, you can say yes. I think that's a great idea. The other thing I will say is that it is also really important to remember that those social interactions are really important. And so, if something comes up where you really want to go out and you really want to have this experience, or there's like some I don't know, fancy dessert that has just come out somewhere that it's a once in a lifetime, I think it's really important to remember with our goals that, sort of having a little bit of a lapse is not a full relapse. And so, if you wanted to still go out and have something, you don't have to completely scratch your entire goal. So I think that is another really important thing. And then the other thing is that, you can still go out and do those things and not necessarily partake in the dessert. So sort of having all of that in mind.
Or having a healthier alternative at home.
Exactly, yeah, going out and then maybe saying, well, I have my, banana smoothie at home that I'm going to have later, so I'll hang out with you guys, but I might not do that. So, but I think you made a really good point about maybe just planning in the beginning of the week, and then maybe also pre-preparing some desserts, some healthier alternatives that you could have if those social situations come up.
Yeah,
so
where my brain still clocks it as a reward,
Mm-hmm.
a treat.
yeah, something that tastes good. That's a rewarding end to your day. So maybe,
but something that I've worked for also. Like you said earlier in the week, planning ahead, it will pay off even more.
So maybe your goal would be surrounding meal planning or dessert planning out the quantity of desserts that you'll have in the first part of the week, so that you kind of leave your weekend open. And then if you get to the weekend and nothing comes up, then you're moving towards your larger goal of just consuming less. You don't have to like make up for it if you don't eat as many desserts as you want.
Right.
Okay, so maybe let's say I'll let you decide the number, and you can write it down, of how many desserts you want to say you'll have during the week, and then how many you want to keep for the weekend. And maybe that could be a good action step to sort of stay on track. And because this is an 8-week goal, I think it'll be really helpful if we do a weekly check-in, just for accountability. But then at the end of the 8 weeks, we can check in again and see how you've stuck to your goal. And like I said, you know, having a little bit of a lapse doesn't set you back at all. It's still your goal set. And so
Sure.
after the 8 weeks, we can assess sort of where you are with your goal and see if we want to further reduce that number, or if it's something that we keep going with until you feel ready to bring the number down even further.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.